Alright, so this is going to be part 2 of what I started earlier of the latest WebBot report. The sun changes datasets include a number of descriptors painting pictures of dispersed humans who will be stopping to wash bloody wounds while walking away from destruction. Over 60% of the destruction set or dataset supporting subsets are referencing nourishment/foods. These sets are describing the increased radiations, including unknown energies from space, as being causative to a spreading change in the production of foods. These sets, in their turn, contain references to some plants run amok with flowers, yet no fruit comes from them. Got flowers, but they didn't turn into fruit. There are a great many sets pointing toward famine and disease as a result of the solar changes, additional note, and time changes that will affect food crops. In some of the famine subsets, there are indicators that the elite's food granaries are opened and distributed. In at least one instance, the facility will be opened to the people by those charged with securing it for the elites. He says, not much loyalty at the top, I guess, huh? Also cross-linked to the famine datasets are many datasets related to climate change as an effective agent for populace dispersal in food crop production. In a few of the detail sets, we do note the soon-to-be visible food production buildings that the mega giant control freak corporations will be touting as the savior of the planet. Additional note, please pay attention to the use of language from the powers that be and their minions, the corporations, over this next year. Whenever you are offered a savior, please remember, this is for willing slaves only. And also, excuse me, let's get that out of the way. And also, please note that our data shows that an upcoming visible within mainstream media incident will show just exactly how the powers that be feel about and treat their slaves. This incident will be so bloody and terrible that it will not be shown on TV, but you will both hear about it as well as discover that the TV stooges of the powers that be will surprisingly be at great pains to deny the rumors of blood-drinking sacrifice. Further sets within the energies from space subset describe barren plants and barren soils, while others indicate a sprouting in abundance of new life forms within plants and plant-like beings. A number of sets for the new life forms include mountaintops and oceans as the sites. Some of these new life forms will excite enough interest to break through the deluge of information that is indicated to be flooding the planet. The data is quite clear in that the effect, while positive, over the next few years is without precedent in its impact on humanity and is based initially on fear so shocking as to incite insane behavior in tens of thousands of people across the planet. The descriptors include realizing the seriousness of the situation, it includes suicides and murders, and examination of the laws, all of them including the imposition of the UCC, and disclosure of financial crimes by politicians en masse, and doors to personal madness, and many more of the same vein. The idea coming across is that those people still trapped in the illusion of normalcy will be receiving a shock so large as to destroy for all humans the illusion of the USA dollar and the, quote, my favorite, American dream. So, even the most hard-pressed, hardcore, there's no way that'll happen in this country, we'll get out of it, everything's fine, the US dollar is going nowhere, no, it's not going to get devalued, it's the strongest world currency. Even those die-hard bozos, according to this anyways, are going to come to this startling conclusion, uh-oh, I'm not sleeping right now and dreaming, this is really happening, how am I going to deal with it? And everybody who's ever told that person, you should have bought precious metals, you should have bought a food storage, right? You should have bought some things to protect yourself and your assets. The assets as in things you have. You didn't listen. Now what? You can't go back. Once it happens, you can't go back. Because then it becomes one of those stories where, man, I wish I could go back and do that. Man, if I could do that all over again. Don't we all have a situation like that where we can go back right now and say, oh, you remember that? Yeah, man, I wish I could go back and redo that again. Man, I'd do this such differently. Man, if silver was $10 an ounce again like it was in the end of 08 and early 09. Man, when old J Snip 4 load the boat like you never saw at $10 silver. And you know what? I learned from that. So if we happen to see major destruction on silver and gold markets here in the near future, sub $20 silver or something like that, you can be rest assured old J Snip 4 will not let this opportunity pass him by again. Having said that, these people, with this illusion of normalcy, everything's fine, you can't take that back. You can't get a second go. You better be prepared now. Plain and simple. There are several sets indicating that the shocks of summer to the American populace will include rapid response that will not be to the liking of the powers that be in officialdom. This rapid response is not any form of instant savior new financial system BS. What is being described is a discussion at the national level of the delusion of the previous political system and other systems such as the Federal Reserve banking system, aka the Federal Reserve crime system, and the lobbying as institutionalized bribery system. Man, if you got rid of those three things, I mean, we'd be flawless right now. We'd be fantastic. The data sets describe the mental impact of the economic events of summer, Northern Hemisphere, as impacting the populace as though struck dumb or senseless by the airwave/shockwave. Further support goes to reeling and staggering and vomiting from realization of what has occurred. Other data in the same vein continues to accrue as model space is progressed from June through November, with the largest level of accretion during the July, August, September period. The data sets include desperation, causing large-scale population behavior changes. Additional note, perhaps the most frightening to the parasites on our collective backs. So I'm going to read that without the additional note. The data sets include desperation, causing large-scale population behavior changes, as well as abandonment/repudiation of debt burden. This last part of a global initiative to hand back the debt to the bankster cabal. Further efforts along this line will be attempts to collect the national debt. Note that this will be a people's initiative to collect on the debt the bankers owe for social services. Key word here. This last part of a global initiative is to hand back the debt to the bankster cabal. And abandonment/repudiation of debt burden. You got some credit cards you're looking to max out. Maybe on, I don't know, silver. The key question is, when is this debt repudiation abandonment going to really kick in? Because, man, oh man, if you could time that one flawlessly, load the boat with a credit card or two or three, load them with silver, You take that silver, stash it in your house. You've got a lot of silver and a lot of debt because you just bought that silver. And then this whole thing kicks into place, and everyone stops paying their debt, or maybe the system just implodes on itself and it's automatic. You don't even have to stop, it just happens. It doesn't get too specific, so I don't know. And then you're thinking, man, my debt is gone, no one's paying their debt anymore, and I've got all this freaking silver that just went through the roof in price as all this happened, or the after effect, and I'm basically rich, or at least wealthy at this point, with all this silver that I've accumulated, just looking to protect myself, and it has turned into major wealth on accident. I have no idea when that will take place. I do not advise you to max out your credit cards and go get some silver right now in expectations of this to just take place this next few months or something. Don't think so. But just remember what I've said, and as we go this year, next year, 2014, whatever, let's see how some stuff unfolds here. Further data associated with the ongoing economic warfare against the populace include frightening shocks to the financial system that will ripple through the populace as the just-in-time delivery or warehouse system collapses. Additional note, this is actually a good thing. The data sets indicate an instant response and rebuilding of local economic bases, if you will, around the globe as the realization that the wicked witch of bankster occupation has ended. Please note that this data set does not apply ubiquitously across the populace simultaneously. It is a process. Therefore, the population will experience this at different times and in different forms. However, the data shows that a dawning global realization of staggering change does take place over the last half of 2012 that will result in millions of people just abandoning the parasitic power structures of the former elite. Also note that this is not an instant golden age nor any other form of channeled BS. Instead, the data is describing quite clearly a period of extremes and opportunities as well as extremes and screw-ups. Without the pyramidal parasitical power structure imposed from above, humans are free to advance as well as fail in new and unique ways. We will certainly do both. And again, he gave a specific time, the last half of 2012. Is it possible? Yes. Absolutely. With the speeding up of these cycles and 2012 being the end of the Mayan calendar, the big cycle, absolutely it's possible for everything that I've read so far and what's coming that I'm going to read, could happen this year and in the next year like it even says. As I've said before, my little disclaimer, because I've been following the web for years, it is never, the whole report is never on time. Pieces of it could be spot on, other pieces could be a year or two behind. It's happened. So there's my disclaimer for the 1500th time during this video. Just keep it in mind what I'm telling you and reading to you, not necessarily the specific time frame that you think it should happen because this thing said it would be the last half of 2012. Don't make that mistake. Just listen to what it says and understand that most of this is coming, if not all of it. It's just a matter of how soon, and it will be soon enough. You can be rest assured. Because if Lindsey Williams' timeline is right, with the elite wanting to dump the dollar by the end of 2012, and it might be that they chose the end of 2012 to dump it, basically turn it into trash, because the 99 years is up for the Federal Reserve. A charter was signed 1913 that lasted 99 years. It was signed, I think, Christmas Day or the day before or day after Christmas, something like that, of 1913. So that would mean the very end of 2012, which is when Lindsey said this would happen. The dollar would be almost all but worthless, as far as a global economy is considering it anyways. And here in this country, it'll be hurting us too. But could it be because the Federal Reserve System is going to go away, the 99-year charter expires? And they're doing everything in their power now to basically ride that horse till it dies. We've got less than a year left, guys. Let's make it count. We're going away anyways. Let's hook our buddies up big time, and let's just destroy everything on the way out. Who cares? It could be happening right as he said it would, which is interesting because this also says the last part of 2012 to expect these things. Okay. This inequality of net distribution shows up as model space is progressed into June. And then when I read these new paragraphs, it may not be that the one I just read you. It may not have been the paragraph right after that. I may have skipped several because I didn't care to write it, didn't want to mention it, and I went to another paragraph. So when it says this inequality, the word inequality may have been in another paragraph that I didn't even read to you because it's not in what I felt was important. Just want to throw that out there. This inequality of net distribution shows up as model space is progressed into June. Further, for the Americas, the states are indicated to soon be in active contention legally en masse, with the concept or core of federal/corporation governmental dominance of local resources. The data sets are pointing to a period starting this June when the shock of economic disaster hits so hard as to cause bits and pieces of the body sheds limbs of the dollar/banker empire to fall off. So it's almost like saying this economic thing hits so hard that it causes bits and pieces of the limbs of the dollar/banker empire to fall off, so to speak. There are continuing accrual patterns indicating that the far west states of the American empire will be the first to leave. So the western side of USA could be seceding soon. And, let's see, California's done. They thought they'd be $8 billion deficit. Now, no, it's more like double that now, or more than double that. It's done. California's done. So they're not going to have a choice, for one thing. It's going to happen. They're going to have to do something. When they realize the federal government isn't there to help them, they'll take matters in their own hands and probably secede. They'll probably be one of the first states to do so, and that's what this is basically saying that's coming. And from an older Webbot report, it talked about each state or potential areas of states having their own money system, currency, and that some people are going to become filthy rich betting on currencies, kind of like the Forex market, except local United States Forex market, if you will, from state to state or areas of states to different areas of states. Different currencies, some will be more powerful economically, some will be more powerful some other way, and people will bet and lose and win fortunes, either way, in betting in these currency markets when they kick in. You haven't heard anything about it so far. It's probably down the line for sure as the things that will happen, but not yet. It's not mentioned in this report, but I do remember it from a prior report, and this makes me really think about that. We have specific data references to various different bespoke or celebrated cause of action that include air flights, air quality, water rights, military problems for Hawaii, gold rights, energy rights, radiation deaths for Alaska, radiation pollution, land, water rights, air quality for Washington, and Oregon has a personal issue developed which defines their fight as the feds are indicated to publicly murder a local activist. California just goes bankrupt. The California subset shows that the first alternative West Coast state to federal elections will be discussed before September as a part of the breakdown in California to federal government relations. So they're going to have their first alternative to federal elections, and it will be discussed before September as a part of the breakdown in California to federal government relations. The Terra entity, or Earth Changes, has other sets that are headed by the descriptor of sinkholes, which I remember we heard a lot about that in some other reports, and man, did we not have an outbreak of sinkholes like it talked about in the other Webbot reports. Okay, Terra entity has other sets that are headed by the descriptor of sinkholes that we have been noting since 2005 as an up-and-coming planetary threat. Now the data is indicating that a major part of the expansion of the planet process will produce a number of really spectacular and horrifying sinkholes. These include the consumption of complete apartment buildings, as well as at least one instance of destruction on or around a sports stadium such that events are canceled. This last is indicated to be visible within the mainstream media press by late fall in our northern hemisphere. The data sets would seem to be suggesting that the sinkhole eats a soccer stadium. Episode/event will be in Eastern Europe. So there's a soccer stadium that has a sinkhole problem, and that should be in Eastern Europe. These data sets also include linguistic structures for annihilating any illusions and returning to an original previous state of being. Additional note: this was the same language that forecast the Sumatra earthquake and tsunami some 9 months before it occurred. Likely similar meanings now. Within the detailed layers of the linguistics are instances of directly held alignment with center will bring out/expose the ancestral laboratory/temple. Alignment with center. First thing that pops into my mind, what's going to happen December 21st, 2012, allegedly? We align the solar system, our solar system, with the sun at the center, aligns with the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Big event that, by chance, we're all right now alive to live through, even if nothing happens. That's such a rare event that takes thousands and thousands of years to occur, and we happen to be able to be alive when it happens. I don't know if we're going to see something in the sky or anything else. It's just interesting. And that's the key word here. Alignment with center will bring out/expose the ancestral laboratory/temple. This last is supported by the idea of an earthquake that will be participating in a volcano eruption and will expose the ancestral laboratory/facility that has been walked upon for centuries and we didn't even know it was there. There are repeated references to rural and other indicators that the location of this temple laboratory thing is being described as within an area currently quite remote. Yes, there are some small number of details pointing to the Sphinx and the Giza Plateau, but given that the hidden temple of the ancestors is to be exposed by earthquake, it would seem that other geographic pointers would point towards Kashmir and Peace Valley. They seem more probable. Doesn't mean that that's for sure. He's just throwing his opinion out there. Without regard to its location, and while some hints will come out directly from the remnants of the media, the real indicators for the discovery will be a gigantic mobilization of planetary military/officialdom resources that will be focused like a lens on a surprisingly small hilltop when this happens. They want to get there first because they can't have us sheeple finding out what's inside, what's been known for centuries, that we've all been lied to about, potentially religious things, potentially origin of human people. I don't know. I'm just throwing some weird stuff out there. But, you know, it remains to be seen. But they want to be all up on that to try to keep us away, basically, from what I gather. The sun producing dissolution/dispersion subsets that are themselves internally linked as they come back to the crossed currents and the destruction archetype that is associated with solar activity over the rest of this year and through to fall of 2013. From the really clear as mud view above, we descend into sets made murky by their very proliferation of details. There are sets indicating that the sun causes life to disperse. There are sets for solar activity-induced electrical damage. There are sets for destruction of pathways/transportation systems due to solar damage. Detail sets accumulating to the sun archetype as model space is moved through summer, northern hemisphere, include winds from space. These space winds have several different levels of descriptors that include some which say that space winds will blow over throughout Earth's atmosphere. This is also described as the unexpected that will come true. Curiously, there are supporting sets for nourishing and rising/uplifting as impacts of the space winds flowing through the atmosphere. Other levels of supporting sets are also headed by space winds, but in this case, these are describing something more akin to a galactic wind or unknown energies from deep space that will contribute something new, we're not sure, to the solar display. Within these detailed data sets are descriptors for a strong and bold woman who will be at the center or nexus of the galactic winds discussion at a global level. This female personality is described as being decisively insightful. We will know her when we see a debate that will take place within the mainstream media in which the strong woman will eviscerate her opponents. The appearance of this strong personality on the global media stage will be a significant temporal marker for a whole lot of weird outer space stuff forecasts that they've, I guess, put out in the past or whatever. Just that the whole forecast of weird things from space. Think of this intellectually dominated woman of late summer and early fall, this lady, as being similar to the final thread breaking that causes the curtains to fall and reveal the stagecraft behind the scenes presented. The man behind the curtain. By the way, our clue as to the female personality at the center of galactic wind strangeness is, quote, in her hands. Daddy's hands were strong when I done wrong. In her hands. Alright, sorry, that was terrible. As model space is progressed into December, additional note, approximately December 19th, the accretion patterns show a very large growth of new sets under the archetype of union/fusion. This data set is supported at its primary level with masses of rain, water hovering over Earth. Is it possibly from space, something doing something with that? Or causing it? He's got a question mark, not sure. The archetype of fusion/joining/union also has secondary supporting sets that are headed by flood. Probably not good, he says. These secondary supporting sets are correct and complete and are repeatedly filled with water, flood, and deluge. Further, the tertiary sets, data sets, are headed by the archetype of terra/earth, with its support at the primary level also headed by flood. What was that story again? Noah and a flood and all that stuff? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? As model space is progressed through fall and toward December, several areas of growth emerge in sets that indicate that the powers that be will be appointing regional warlords/governors across much of the planet in preparation. You can already see Obama with his czars, can't you? Right? And all his different secretaries of this and secretary of that. Remember the executive order I read back, was it March 16th, I think? Yeah, I think it was March 16th executive order. All these different secretaries have the power to do this and the power to do that just by the stroke of his pen. Incredible. There are even some sets that point to a very interesting form of disclosure in which the powers that be will be revealing themselves as they are, and revealing their allies. However, before David Wilcock and all the channelers of the world get too excited, we note that this will be a horrifying event for most humans. Additional note, real shock to the sheeple, and is described as a temporal marker for the last days before fusion/union/flood. Further, the disclosure will, as noted, be accompanied by blood and saliva in great quantities. Further, and as an interesting note, the aware observer may be able to detect the same smells/odors that will be pervasively filling the atmosphere prior to the fusion/union/flood. Interesting smell of odors, huh? These smells are something that the powers that be are described as anticipating, at least those few with the gnosis and the senses. There are repeated sets indicating that chemicals, pheromones, and something else, not sure, will be the excitatory agent that will begin the blood flow /quickening/alteration. As model space is moved from early fall, September, autumn equinox, the data sets accrue huge amounts within the press, mainstream media, indicating national calls or demands by officialdom for unity. We need to unify. We can't, that kind of nonsense. These national demands for unity are seemingly not specifically focused in any single country, but rather show up with geographic indicators for most countries, as though the phenomenon would be a general trend. This strident demands across media for unity, and not just in America, not just in the EU, not just in some third world country. It's what it's saying. This is going to be something and I've already heard it in Greece recently. We need to unify and right. So I just heard it for the first time over there. And you're probably gonna hear it somewhere else, France and Germany, and then Spain, and right. That's what this is saying. When you start to see this, and say, man, everybody's saying that. All these countries are saying that. They're leaders. We need to unify. We don't need to freaking unify. We need to just get rid of the damn bankers. That's my talking there. But when you hear this, it's a temporal marker. This strident demands for unity can be seen as a pretty reliable temporal marker for those persons who have made bug-out plans with the intent of vacating developed areas. Developed as in you live near a city or in a city, got a high, decently, whatever, average even population from where you live, probably talking about you, which would include me right now. The data sets are indicating that several weeks, perhaps as long as a couple of months, not sure, it says, of increasingly strident calls for unity will be anticipatory clues or messages. These messages should be coincident with the disappearance from mainstream media visibility of many of your favorite personalities /celebrities /officialdom /minions. If, capital letters if, shortly after the autumn equinox, that will be the last sort of by absence visible clue, prior to the shift into disclosure mode within the powers that be and their corporate fascist control structure. So, those persons who have bug-out plans with the intent of vacating developed areas, it's saying this is the clue as to when you may want to start packing. You may have weeks to a few months at best. 2 months, he says, possibly. When you hear the call for unity, and then it starts growing, and more are calling for unity, and another country, and they're calling for unity, and then another one, right? That's the sign we're going to be looking for to say, according to the web audit, it said we ought to bug out. Now, what if by chance it flawlessly takes place? Unity call here, unity call there. We need unity. And celebrity, can't find them anymore. What are they doing? Oh, this Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly. Man, they're not coming on anymore. What's going on with them? Right? Man, this thing has nailed it. And then you decide it's time to bug out, or go to my little place in Tennessee or wherever you're going. Like me, I'd like to go to Tennessee. I'm still trying to make that happen. And then you get there, and nothing happens. No need to bug out. Maybe that part of the web report was next year, even though he thought it would be this year. This is the problem with this stuff. It's not perfect by any means, but at least knowing something is better than nothing. But I gotta say, if what I just said happens about the media personalities not being leaving and not here's a temporal marker, it's right in your face, you should probably leave Florida now, Joe. Okay. I probably will do that one way or another. Because if it got that part right, and this little temporal marker is attached to basically telling you that's the time you need to bug out because what's coming next is not going to be too pretty, I'm going to go ahead and chance that. And hopefully by then I will have my little place in Tennessee, little property, etc. And, you know, go from there. So let me continue. There are many sets within the flood/union/fusion flood thing, whatever, supporting sets that gain new support sets themselves as model space is moved into January 2013. At this point, these new aspects/attributes include a large number of descriptors to humans/life in motion. These sets include explicit references to people amidst the chaos who will be in groups or individually be setting off for the mountains or putting themselves into motion as situation where they were becomes untenable. These sets, data sets, include support in the form of retreat, leaving, saying farewell to old places and leaving, set feet to motion, walking away, leaving in quiet solitude, or leaving in quiet solitude. Further sets within model space are referencing some level of minor visibility within the mainstream media for the leave takers. And I'm assuming what he just talked about is the leave takers. Taking leave. I don't know why that word is used, but it was a word that was in the WebBot data, so he's using it as is. This is against a general level of chaos that is described as being filled with, chock full of, replete with mental baggage. Mental baggage and material concerns. There are also descriptor sets in which the leave takers or refugees are described as being without luggage, bereft of possessions, traveling light, and other sets of similar nature. The datasets paint a picture of skirting towns and keeping distance from crowds and cautious awareness of mobs. There are indications that a big bluey explosion, electrical disruption of serious magnitude will occur near or within the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider thing, whatever it's called, at CERN, C-E-R-N. The data points to an arc that will incinerate a very vital piece of ceramic, and he says a fuse maybe, not sure. Anyway, it will be toasted pretty well according to the data sets. As model space is moved through fall of 2012 and then into winter 2012-2013, the Terra entity has a primary rising supporting values of winds that will be participating in the floods. The winds are described as being forced down from above and will be propelling movement, causing diaspora, across much of the planet. In fact, the data is explicitly or bespoke, stating that 80% of the planet will have increased winds during this fusion/union/flood period. Additional note, over the next 4 years possibly is how long this could go, or come and go something. Possibly into 2016 is what it's saying. By burrowing into the supporting sets, we are able to locate some interesting details that can help us describe the period. The new data sets that accrue from December 19th onward have a heavy salting of descriptors for people living a dawn to dusk life. This is very interesting. This is the last paragraph too, by the way. These sets have a large number of geographic pointers to northern hemisphere, industrialized regions. The implication is that electrical failures have left people without the ability to extend daylight at nighttime. So you're living a day-to-night life. When it turns night, you ain't seeing nothing, so you better go to bed. Further support for this idea comes from repeated sets in which ships at sea and in harbor will be uniquely visible in the dark coastline. In the same vein, other sets cross-linked over to the populous US of A entity show warships and freighters that will be tied up at piers and used as electrical generating platforms. Further, there are other aspect/attribute sets within this group painting pictures of village-like life that will revolve around the ships in the harbor. There are word sets attaching civil and administrative functions to these floating city centers, if you will. End of Webbot report. If only 10% of what I read you in this entirety comes true, man, it's going to be freaking rough. And if most of what I read you comes true, but just not when we think it is, 2012 and into 2013, maybe it's spread out over 4 or 5 years, it's going to be even worse. It just won't be here quite as fast. So take it for what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. But I wouldn't discount it. I would not make that mistake and discount it. Take care.